You gotta wait, 1 second, we gotta get the live stream going right here.
All right, we're good.
Okay, go ahead.
I am required and will be reading a statement with respect to this meeting and all other meetings. In accordance with the current executive order of the governor, the planning board is meeting in person and public attendance at the meeting is permitted, subject to limitation. As an accommodation to those members of the public, yes,
And we have an echo.
I'm sorry, Tom?
I thought there was an echo.
No, it's actually perfectly fine here. Okay, go ahead, we'll move this away. All right, go ahead.
as an accommodation to those members of the public who have health concerns concerning the related COVID-19. The public also may hear the meeting on the Village of North Hills YouTube channel. The link to the YouTube channel can be found on the village homepage of the village website, www.villageofnorthhills.com. In accordance with the open meetings law, the public has the right to be heard on agenda items which are public hearings. On all other matters, the public does not have the right to comment on agenda items unless authorized by the rules of the board. Interested members of the public who wish to provide comments on an agenda item or public hearing may do so in person or through written chat section of the village YouTube channel. Comments may also be provided at our village cell phone number, which is 516-627-3451. I'll repeat that, 516-627-3451, or by email during the meeting to the village administrator at villageofnorthhills.com. I'll repeat that also. Any email will be sent to the village administrator at villageofnorthhills.com. All board members and staff are attending in person, except the village attorney, who is attending remotely, and there is no need to call the roll for attendance. All right.
But we will be called one more time.
1 second, I'll call it 1 second. Chairman Doctor,
Present.
Deputy Chair Severin. Present. Member Schubert.
Here.
Member Lenzo.
Present.
Member Kaczynski.
Present.
Building Superintendent Chikwamani.
Present.
Village Administrator Lobacaro. Present.
Having read the opening statement, I call upon our village administrator to do the pledge of allegiance.
Everybody please stand. Place your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mary Ann, make an announcement for the hearing for the next date that you have open.
Yes. Yep, so the next meeting would be the second Wednesday in October. That would be October 14th. The next planning board meeting.
That would be at 7:30 p.m.
7:30 p.m.,
here at
yes.
the Village Hall, October 14th at 7:30. And then we have a public hearing scheduled for this evening. It's on the agenda. It's application number 19-01AX. Application of C&B Realty number 1 LLC, 1542 Northern Boulevard, Manhasset. Pursuant to Village Code Chapter 179 for an extension extension of time to September 21st, 2021 to obtain required permits. Premises are designated at section 3, lot 145, lot 434B on the Nassau County Land and Tax Map. Is there anybody here to speak on behalf of the applicant?
Yeah.
Would you state your name for the reporter, please?
My name is Jessica Lees, L-E-I-S. I'm with Porcelli, Dean, Toronto, with offices at 333 Earl Bloomington Boulevard in Uniondale, New York.
I'm sorry. So one louder. He's gonna make it, she's gonna make the mic, we're gonna raise the volume of the microphone. Everybody here can hear it fine, you're gonna raise the volume. Try now.
Is this better? This is better?
Yeah.
Okay.
I apologize. Could you repeat your name, please?
Sure, my name is Jessica Lees. I'm an attorney with Porcelli, Dean, Toronto.
You can proceed.
Thank you. So good evening, Chairman, members of the board. I'm here tonight requesting an extension of a previously approved site plan granted on October 10th in 2019. To refresh your recollection on this application, this is currently the site of Barnes and Noble, and the property straddles the border line between the village of North Hills as well as the town of North Hempstead. The building is located entirely within the town, and the jurisdiction line goes through the parking lot. So in 2019, we had applied for a site plan review in order to expand the parking lot in the rear of the building to accommodate more parking and improve site circulation.
Jessica, we can move over one line. Tom, are you able to hear it because we're getting a lot of background noise?
I am, but the problem is if I listen to the sound on the YouTube, they land, and if I listen to the sound on my phone, I can't hear it.
It's better? We increase the volume on the microphone. Okay, thanks. Not using the microphone.
It's a transmission.
You can't, the YouTube, you have to listen on your phone, because I have it on, I'm watching the YouTube, but you can't listen, you can't watch the YouTube and have a phone there. It's just, it doesn't work.
It's like TV and radio. I have the sound on the YouTube turned off, I'm listening to the phone, but the microphone is too far from me to hear it. It's like a long.
Is that better, Tom?
No, phone is a speaker, so that I cannot hear from my two ears. And that's the phone.
Can you hear, is this loud enough?
It moves the microphone closer to you,
It's as close as it can be.
and maybe we can move the lectern up closer.
Take that suggestion. Move the left turn closer to.
You move the left turn.
Maintain social distance.
You know, pull the table out and put the microphone out.
There.
Move it closer to the,
Closer to the speaker.
All right.
no, move the microphone closer to the speaker.
Okay. Is this better?
No.
Much? Okay. All right, perfect.
That's better than better.
So I was mentioning that the building then is split jurisdiction. The building is located entirely with the town of Hempstead, North Hempstead, and the parking lot, there's split jurisdiction. The village has jurisdiction in the parking area. So we had applied for a site plan review in 2019 to expand the parking lot in the rear of the building to accommodate more parking and improve site circulation. This was in conjunction with the applicant's ultimate goal of converting the building from all retail to a combination of retail and medical use. The applicant began this process for the conversion of the space when Barnes & Noble's long-term lease had expired, and they began engaging in one-year extensions of the lease. Currently, the lease is set to expire in January 2021, and our client is happy to continue to extend their leases. However, given the current state of retail in the past few years, and especially the current climate during the pandemic, they're trying to secure a long-term tenant. They were exploring other future tenants prior to the pandemic, and now with the pandemic happening, the conversations have been delayed and some have come to a halt. Their ultimate goal, again, is to get a mixed use of retail and medical for long-term lease. So at this point, we are requesting an extension of the current approval, which was initially set to expire May 22nd of 2020. We applied for an extension in April of this year, and at that time, since this board was unable to meet, the Board of Trustees pursuant to state authority extended the time to apply for building permits until September 18th, 2020. So we're now requesting a one-year extension from September 18th, 2020, or any amount of time that this board deems reasonable. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Marianne, have we been advised, or I'm asking you, on behalf of the applicant, of what portion of the premises do you intend to use for retail, and what portion do you intend to use for medical? The reason I'm asking that is since a lot of things have changed since the pandemic with respect to the lack of retail. Your next door neighbor has got a big sign going out of business. We would like to know, because that may affect our decision, we understand what the actual use of the premises is going to be. Just to say generically, medical and retail, I don't believe is sufficient. I don't know how the other members of the board feel.
Mr. Chairman, if I just may interject.
Yes, you may, sir.
The board granted an approval for this particular application and this particular use. The applicant is asking only to have the time in which to get the permit for that extension. The question we're now respect to the subject of the application.
Having been advised by our attorney that we've already approved an extension, the creation of an extension of the parking, or that we have before us today, to change the time of the extension from September, for the last day granted, to September 21st of 2021. Does anybody have a motion on this?
I'd like to make a motion to approve application of first to close the public hearing discussion.
Is there anybody else to be heard with respect to this application? Nobody else having been heard at this public hearing, I will call a motion to the public hearing.
Make a motion.
Can I make a motion? Someone to close the public hearing.
Motion closed. Make the motion.
Motion was made by Ms. Efron and affirmed by Mr. Kaczynski. Motion having been made to close the hearing, I would ask for a motion now to vote on the extension.
Vote on the motion. Vote on the motion.
We have a vote on the motion of closure. All in favor of the closure. Having closed the public hearing, I now call for a motion on the application for an extension till September 2021.
I'd like to make a motion to approve application number 19-01A-EX, application of CNB Realty number 1 LLC for an extension of time for September 21st, 2021.
Second motion.
Motion having been made by Ms. Severin and Mr. Mendo, I call for a vote on the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Before you do that, the application was for an extension to September 18th, 2021. You can't grant more than what the applicant asked for.
That's what we just did.
No, it's September, motion, September 21.
That's the application.
You amend the motion.
I'd like to amend the motion for application number 19-01A-EX for September 21st, 2021.
No, September 18th was the request.
September 18th, I beg your pardon, 2021.
Second that motion. To September 18th of 2021.
Motion having been made and seconded, I call for a vote. All in favor, say aye, or raise your right hand. Motion is unanimously carried. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you for your time.
The next item is a board discussion, and nobody being here or present, we don't need to report her anymore. Is that correct, Tom?
Okay, just want to make sure.
Yep, thank you.
Thank
You're finished.
Okay, great, thank you.
And-
So I should have a stream in the live stream?
No, it's still a live meeting.
Okay, so I just pause it?
Go into executive session, then you would pause it. But right now, it's still a live meeting, a meeting of the public.
Okay.
I think we can do it in here rather than moving into.
So you want to make a motion to go into executive session?
Yeah.
Okay, so make a motion in a second, and then we'll pause the live stream.
Somebody-
Motion to go into executive session?
I'd like to make a motion.
Second
motion.
Excuse me,
Motion is second.
excuse me, a motion for executive session, let's state the subject matter of the executive session.
Let's make a motion to go into executive session regarding application number 19-03F, application of the Manhasset Bay Group Incorporated, Carrots Hotel in Valley, Avalon Heights, LLP, 90 Merrick Avenue, East Meadow, New York. Set bond amounts. Premises are designed or designated, excuse me.
It's not that's the application. You cannot discuss the application. in executive session. There are limited subjects that can allow you to discuss in executive session, as we indicated when we do our letter in the budget every year, 20 minutes. You can only get into executive session for one of those permitted subjects.
So requesting legal advice on application number 19-03F.
It's on our agenda for board discussion.
That's not, board discussion is public. If you want to have an executive session for legal advice, you can do that, but the motion to go into executive session has just been proposed. Understandably, meaning that you cannot discuss with me back and forth, not with each other. You cannot discuss the substance of the application, you can only discuss the legal issues. If you want to discuss the substance of the application, you have to do it in public.
And for the executive session, we do not have to discuss it.
No, you can discuss legal issues with me, meaning you can speak to me and I can speak to you, you cannot talk to each other about the application.
Late this afternoon, Tom, you forwarded to myself and all members of the board, the statement from our village superintendent with respect to his suggestion for the amount of bonds that are requested. We're to have a discussion on those, on that letter, and the question of the performance of bond. Can we do it here openly, or should we, can we do it in an executive session?
It depends on what it is you want to discuss. If you want to discuss, if you have legal questions, okay, you can do it in executive session. If you want to discuss what the behind or what the, that's a public discussion.
To me, I'm having difficulty comprehending what you're saying. To me, they're one and the same.
Well, and you're going to ask me for legal advice, and what you discuss the needs of the because it's two different things. Legally, you are permitted, in fact, required by the previous or the subdivision, which said that the board would set the amount of the required funds. You set the amount of the required funds. But legally, if you have authority to do that, and yes. And then one discuss how much, that's not what the legal discussion.
So Tom, we're not satisfied with the amount of the bonds.
Okay.
We would like to know if we can maybe raise the amount.
You can have a discussion about that, it's a public discussion as to what the amount of the bond is, not a legal question.
Does that require a report?
No.
Well, can we, we're thinking of maybe of raising the amount because of what has happened.
So we are going to raise the amount because of, our superintendent advises that the cost of construction have increased, and he is going to give us this evening new numbers of what he recommends for the 5 bonds required. How should we, I'm asking now for legal advice, how you suggest we proceed?
Well, as I said before, you have the recommendations from the Simple as to the bond, the memo that was circulated, I think, in March. There's a different recommendation, I'm not aware of it, a discussion with him in public after I announced the bond.
We're discussing that in public, there's nobody here on behalf of the applicant. And
It's not a hearing, it's a board discussion.
so we'll have a discussion. Peter, you want to go near the microphone so that?
Sure.
No problem. All members, we have before you a copy of Peter's recommendation back from March 3rd, 2020, which you recommended certain amounts.
If you didn't have one, we
Yes.
could research it about it, right? In case you didn't have it, it's that was a long time.
Thank you so much. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
I know.
Since March, Peter has informed me that construction costs in Nassau County have increased, and therefore he believes that the amounts submitted on these bonds are inadequate to cover the required insurance protection for the village. He has, I believe, you correct me if I'm wrong, Peter, have amended this letter to give us new amounts.
So at this point, I think, depending on how we want to work this, I would suggest increasing these amounts by a minimum of 10%.
That's on each of the 5 bonds.
Each of the 5 bonds. If we are to keep that as is right now, sorry. If this was to stay the way it is, the current inspection fee would be $92,566.60.
I haven't gotten to the inspection fee yet. We're talking about the size, and well, excuse me, the amount of the bond.
The amounts of the bonds.
So if we were to take each of these items that were listed from A to E, you're suggesting that they be increased by 10% each.
I would say at a minimum of 10%.
Okay,
So the 6 million would be 6,600,000.
we can do the arithmetic.
Oh, no, you're just giving
You're
them.
suggesting as a minimum 10%.
Correct. Now, the cost of construction itself hasn't dramatically increased as far as labor cost. What's gone up in price is the cost of materials. So materials are, 50% more expensive. That being said, I think, we're trying to cover this job being finished. So I would say at a minimum 10% increase.
In addition to this, Peter, prior to this meeting, I asked you about performance, what would be your recommendation for a performance bond?
I thought the recommendation was 10% across the board.
Yeah, it's across the board, so it'll be site improvement, landscape lighting, these are all the above.
I apologize, I didn't mean performance, I meant inspection.
Okay, so,
Before you do that, because those are two separate motions. So, may I ask Peter a question?
yes.
Peter, what would you estimate is the time it would take from start to finish to do this project?
Well, from start to finish, meaning once all of the approvals have been given?
Well, no, from whenever.
You're saying start of construction to end of construction? I'm sorry, Tom, I didn't hear what you said.
There is an approval for the subdivision, which includes all of the site improvements. All right, it does not include the individual houses that would each have to get their own building permits. So but I'm telling that if somebody were to start work on the site work to do with the subdivision improvements, the infrastructure, and so on, what would be your guess as to how long it would take from the time they start to the time they finish? Because that would affect your bond estimates as well. It's not only the passage of time up until now, it's the passage of time until down from the road this project should be finished. Because if it isn't finished, that's when the bond would come into play.
Right. Yep.
Tom, don't we need an idea, once we do give these numbers, when they intend to start construction? We could have an answer.
Well, they have a requirement in the approval to get those permits pulled within a certain amount of time. So that we know that if they want to get more time, they'll have to come in for it. And if they do, you can then increase the bond.
I don't have a copy before me. Mary Ann, do we have a document that shows the date that they're supposed to go? Apartments?
No, I don't believe, no, I don't, you mean when the permit should be done?
There's a provision in the final subdivision approval that requires them to pull their permits within a certain amount of time and finish the work within a certain amount of time. And all I'm saying is those are finite numbers. And these bonds apply to that period of time. If they should require more time than that, one is you should be looking at the fact that the bond amounts that you're talking about today are today's estimated cost if the village had to step in and have this work done. But it may be more than that by the time they're supposed to finish the job. So that's a reason why you could bump the numbers up from what was initially recommended. And then keep in mind that if they come back to get more time to do the job, at that time, you can increase the amount of bonds if you think the cost is going up again.
We don't have a copy of the approval.
I have the decision, I'm just looking through it. It's-
Tom, if I may, so just as a general rule of thumb, we do figure out these numbers. When I give the estimated cost for the bonds, we do take that into account that, it's a multiplier of the estimate for that reason. That it would cost the village more and the time that it would take to get the job done. So the bond amounts that we previously set do take that into account. And I'm basically just saying that due to the increased cost, because since COVID, building material costs have gone up dramatically. So since the time of this memo and the time of this meeting, that's why I'm saying I think the correct thing to do here would be to adjust these numbers 10%. And that is also accounting for the time that you're talking about right now. And typically I would say that if this project were to start to finish, site work wise would be approximately a year to 18 months. That would be my guess.
I had difficulty hearing you. What did you say was the time, Fred?
And this is an estimate, I would say that start to finish site work should take somewhere between a year to 18 months because it's going to also depend on what they're doing with the houses.
So, hey, Tom, I have a question. So the fellow who's buying this property is a national builder?
Yeah.
And a lot of these guys, sit on the property for an extended period of time. Even sometimes up to 2 to 3, 5 years before, because they just wait. That's what a lot of these national builders do. And will we have the right to extend then at that time? What you're telling us?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about before, that
Right.
if they run up against the time that the approval resolution requires them to finish the work or start the work, and they want more time from that, they have to come back to you to get more time. If you then extend their time, you can then also increase the amount of the bond for just the reasons that you're mentioning.
Got it.
So the amounts are only for the period of time that we have approved in the final approval of the subdivision. Correct, Tom?
Exactly correct.
Have one discussion at the hearing that it could take 6 months, or 1 year to 18 months to do just the site work. You believe that 10% as recommended is adequate, or we should have to ask for more?
15% is probably a better number, give a little bit of cushion,
Have a suggestion for me?
15%.
Anyone else have a suggestion? I would agree with that. Richard, you wants to know more construction, having been in the plan, being in the business. You think 15% would be adequate?
I think so.
All right.
Would you ask Mr. Kimperly for his view on that, please?
Like I said, I think 10% was a minimum. I think 15% is more comfortable. So I would agree that 15% makes sense.
More comfortable, or would you be more comfortable with 20%? Or would you think that's overkill?
Like I said, so it's kind of hard to say right now because the cost of construction itself, labor-wise, has not gone up. What's gone up is the cost of materials. So you're really trying to navigate a certain percentage of the job increasing. So
Okay, and that,
That things are going to change then because all commodities are traded in dollars. So it's pending, now we're going to have extended low interest rates for the next 3 to 5 years. So that means that the dollar will continue weaker. That means costs will, lumber prices will continue to go up the next probably 2 to 3 to 4 years. So I would recommend at least 15%, and then we can maybe decide once they, they do start building, we raise the prices, raise the bond prices again. What do you think?
yeah, I think that makes sense. I think it's wise for us to take a number that's safe for this moment, and then as we see things progress, because, we can't predict the future, and we don't know what the prices are going to do, and especially if we have another, kind of 5-6 months that we've had moving forward, if things get worse, prices probably are going to go up and not down. So I agree. I think 15% is better than the 10.
I'll entertain a motion for an increase of the numbers previously granted, which I'll read into the record, and to be increased.
They weren't granted, that was just a recommendation.
Is it proper for me to ask the board if they were going to accept the recommendation?
Well, no, if they were going to, then they should. They seem to want to increase it by 15%. So you could ask for a motion to set the bond amount at 15% higher than those recommended in the March 2020 memorandum.
I'll entertain a motion.
Let's make a motion with regard to the March 3rd, 2020 memo regarding application number 19-03F, final subdivision Manhasset Crest, to increase the bond, increase the bonds for site improvement, landscaping and lighting, recreational facilities, tree preservation bond, and compliance of condition bond, an increase of 15% from the previously stated numbers.
Do I have a second on that motion?
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Second, please.
Mr. Kaczynski.
Quick point.
Second one. Should the actual amounts be read and calculated?
They're mathematical, they're 50% more than the ones in the.
I'd like to get on to one other point. There is an inspection fee that would be due the village during the, Peter, I'm talking to you.
Yes, sir.
There is an inspection fee that would be required for the village to collect to be sure that the work is actually being done in performance under the bond. I asked you before the meeting about the question of an inspection. Are you in a position to tell us what you believe would be a fair and adequate fee to the village?
Yeah,
for
so
inspection?
based on 179-90 of our code for the inspection fees, I'm actually calculating it based on the new cost that we just did for the bonds. If you just give me one moment, I'll give you the number right now.
You have 2 moments.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so it would be $106,441.67.
Well, I would suggest that we round it off to 105 or 110,000. Somebody want to be heard on this?
What percentage is that of the estimated cost?
Okay, so that would be, if you take the estimated cost,
What percentage do you use?
of the estimated cost, I used our bond amounts, which is,
What percentage of that do you use?
okay, so the way it's figured out is that it's 500 for the first 10,000 of cost, 3% of the excess over 10,000, and then divided by a third. That's based on 179.90C.
Okay.
Have a motions?
Let's make a motion. Application number 19-03F, final subdivision of Hassel Crest, for the increase of the inspection fee to be received by the Incorporated Village of North Hills to be $106,441.67.
If I may, we're going to round it off with that we have no previous figure, seven of the amount of inspection fee. It's done by calculation.
It was a calculation.
That was right.
With Jim Ronnie just explained that there's a formula in the village code, and applying that formula, the number that the spring gave is the number that comes up, but it's not a rounded off number.
Want to withdraw the motion as you made it and restate it, please?
Okay, withdraw previous motion, new motion. Regarding application number 19-03F, final subdivision in Hassel Crest, inspection fee to be received by the Incorporated Village of North Hills, $106,441.67.
I ask that it be amended to an even amount, 110,000.
And I'm just pointing out to you that's not what the code formula says.
The formula is what he's.
This
Formula.
Yeah, it says
I will withdraw my suggestion. That the motion before us is made by Ms. Severn. Is there a second?
Second the motion.
All in favor, say aye.
The second.
Second, Mr. Lanzo.
Thank you.
that concludes the board discussion on,
Is the vote taken?
Yes.
Yes.
It was passed on. Unanimously.
all right. Is there any unfinished business that anybody wants to discuss or is that the thing this evening?
So Tom, when is this thing gonna go on the map? When is it, is it after everything's done, or?
When you speak on the map, what map?
Well, the National County map.
It doesn't, the subdivision, well, the subdivision map will get filed with the county when signed by the chair. Yeah, I think there is a, you still open with the department house on this, I'm not sure. Peter, you may be, familiar with that, but at some point they will come into the village when we meet all the prerequisites, and they have to have a map signed by the chair, and then that map will get filed with the county.
During the discussion of the previous motions, you mentioned, Mr. Lawrence, so that this is going to be done by a national builder.
Yes.
It's the first I've heard of such.
Toll Brothers, one I'm hearing, is the buyer.
I can perhaps add some information for that, but the owner of Spillman has to think Bay Group, I understand they're in contract to sell the
Yeah,
project.
it's in contract. Sorry, Tom.
Go ahead, Tom.
I understand it's in contract to sell it to Toll Brothers, this is all what I hear, I don't have any facts to back this up. But I'm told they're in contract with Toll Brothers, I don't know what the conditions of that contract are, nor what the role is.
Has the contract been executed to your knowledge, Tom?
Yes.
I'm told they're in contract.
It's posted on the site. On the elements of quite a few internet sites posted already.
I have had personal experience with Toll Brothers, and they're a very reputable and fine builder. So, all right. Is there any other unfinished business to discuss? Any new business? Is there any need for us to go into executive session, having discussed all of the items, in addition to coming up with an inspection fee we pay to the village? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
You make too many motions.
Sorry. Nothing now.
Motion made by Mr. Kaczynski to adjourn the meeting of September the 9th. Is there a second to that motion? I hereby state the meeting is now adjourned. All business having been